Hello, everybody. Buenos dias. This is Austin Lang with Essential Spanish. This is translation exercise number 1. Let's go scuba diving. Vamos a bucear. So in this lesson, I'm going to give you a list of 18 words. It'll be 5 verbs, 5 nouns, 5 adjectives, and 3 adverbs. We will then use those words in sentences to get used to the vocabulary, and then I will give you a translation exercise from English to Spanish, in which all of those words will be included, will be used in the text. So, without anything more to say, let's get started. So let's start out with our vocabulary. So our verbs: to snorkel, bucear; to breathe, respirar; to explore, explorar; to discover, descubrir; to observe, observar. Our nouns: ocean, océano; mask, máscara; tank, tanque; coral, coral; and current, corriente. So as we know, nouns are gendered in Spanish. So this is a B1 lesson, so if you're at this point, I'm sure you can identify pretty easily which is which, but it'd be el océano, la máscara, el tanque, el coral, y la corriente. But our adjectives: so deep, profundo; peaceful, tranquilo; colorful, colorido; clear, claro; exciting, emocionante. And as we know, our adjectives have to match our nouns, so we could have profundo or profunda, tranquilo or tranquila, etc., depending on what the sentence is. So our adverbs: carefully, cuidadosamente; and slowly, lentamente. So now let's jump into these sentences. Number 1, I like to snorkel in the ocean because it's very peaceful. So, me gusta bucear en el océano porque es muy tranquilo. So, as we can see, this is a very straightforward sentence, so I don't think there's too much to say, but I like to snorkel, me gusta bucear, in the ocean, en el océano, because it's very peaceful, porque es muy tranquilo. Number 2, it's important to breathe carefully when you are under the water. Es importante respirar cuidadosamente cuando estás bajo el agua. So, it's important to breathe carefully. Es importante respirar cuidadosamente when you're underwater. Cuando estás bajo el agua. Now, although I'm back visiting in the United States for a couple weeks, where I live in Colombia, Barranquilla, they would be more likely to say cuando estás por debajo del agua. But estás bajo el agua or estás por debajo del agua. Perfectly fine. Number 3, we are going to explore a colorful coral this afternoon. Vamos a explorar un arrecife colorido esta tarde. Arrecife is more reef, like it's more a reef. So coral reef might be the word, but it's not. Just to be aware of that. But vamos a explorar un arrecife colorido esta tarde. Number 4, yesterday we discovered a very weird fish. Ayer descubrimos un pez muy raro. So again, very straightforward. Yesterday, ayer, we discovered, descubrimos, a very weird fish. Un pez muy raro, or you could say extraño. Number 5, you can observe the clear corals and the fish if you wear a good mask. Puedes observar los corales claros y los peces si llevas una máscara buena. So you can observe, puedes observar, the clear corals, los corales claros, and the fish y los peces if you wear a good mask. Si llevas una máscara buena. Now here you could say si te pones una máscara buena, o si usas una máscara buena, o si tienes puesta una máscara buena. But I think definitely the most common verb you'll hear for to wear is llevar. So, por eso, if si llevas una máscara buena. But just be aware of the other variations because they're perfectly valid as well. Number 6, the oxygen tank must be full before going in the water. El tanque de oxígeno debe estar lleno antes de entrar al agua. So the oxygen tank, el tanque de oxígeno, debe estar lleno, must be full, or you could say tiene que estar lleno, before going in the water, antes de entrar al agua. Now you could also say entrar en el agua, but for whatever reason, for me, it feels better with entrar al agua, but both are correct. Number 7, the current was strong, but we managed to get to the deep place without issue. So, la corriente era fuerte, pero logramos llegar al lugar profundo sin problemas. So, the current was strong. La corriente era fuerte. So, era, we're talking about the identity of the current. So the current was strong, la corriente era fuerte, but we managed to get to the deep place, pero logramos llegar al lugar profundo sin problema, without issue. So number 8, it was a very exciting experience. I want to repeat it. Fue una experiencia muy emocionante. Quiero repetirla. So it was an exciting experience. Fue una experiencia muy emocionante. I want to repeat it. Quiero repetirla. So here we can see fue because instead of, era, because this is a completed event, right? If I say it was a very exciting experience, in your mind is listening, you know, oh, this has already happened. So fue will always have that closed feeling. And as Spanish with Paul said, and I definitely would recommend checking out his stuff, it was, in this sense, is a pretty good indicator for fue, unless you're really given a reason not to use it. And I would say in 7, because we're talking more about the identity of the current, that would be a reason. So now let's get into the translation exercise. So I'm going to read you the English text first, and I know it seems like a lot, but we'll go paragraph by paragraph and then sentence by sentence inside that paragraph. So let's get started. Last Saturday, my friends and I went scuba diving for the first time. We were a little nervous at the beginning, but we had a very patient instructor who explained everything to us carefully. First, we put on the gear, the mask, the wetsuit, and the oxygen tank. Then we practiced how to breathe slowly under the water. We entered the ocean and began to explore an area with many corals. The water was clear and calm, which helped us observe marine life better. We saw fish of many colors and shapes. Some swam fast, others hid among the rocks. We discovered a deeper zone where the coral was bigger and more colorful. We swam slowly so as not to scare the animals. One of my friends pointed to a turtle swimming nearby. It was very exciting to see it so close. The current was soft, but we always followed the guide's instructions. After an hour, we got out of the water. We were tired, but happy. We all said it was an incredible experience and that we want to do it again very soon. We learned a lot about the sea and about how to move under the water. Now we understand why scuba diving is such a special activity. So let's take a breath and we'll get into it. So part 1. Let me go ahead and turn on make sure the language I have here is in Spanish. I did not, so go figure this is happening to me right now. Okay, so we'll go sentence by sentence. I would suggest before, there's 4 parts, so at each part, pause the video and do your best to try to translate each part. And remember, because this is a translation exercise, if you don't say the same thing as me, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are incorrect. But let's get started. Last Saturday, my friends and I went scuba diving for the first time. So, last Saturday, el sábado pasado, mis amigos y yo fuimos a bucear por primera vez. We were a little nervous at the beginning, but we had a very patient instructor who explained everything to us carefully. So, estábamos un poco nerviosos al principio, pero we had a very patient instructor, pero teníamos un instructor muy paciente that explained everything to us carefully, que nos explicó todo cuidadosamente. First, we put on the gear. Primero, nos pusimos el equipo. The mask, la máscara. Here are some of our vocabulary. la máscara, the wetsuit, el traje de neopreno, or you could say el traje de buceo, and the oxygen tank, y el tanque de oxígeno. Then we practiced how to breathe slowly under the water. Luego, practicamos cómo respirar lentamente bajo el agua o por debajo del agua. So, el sábado pasado, mis amigos y yo fuimos a bucear por primera vez. Estábamos un poco nerviosos al principio, pero teníamos un instructor muy paciente que nos explicó todo cuidadosamente. Primero nos pusimos el equipo, la máscara, el traje de neopreno y el tanque de oxígeno. Luego practicamos cómo respirar lentamente bajo el agua. And just to comment here with the oxygen tank, it doesn't have to be limited to just a scuba diving context. I could say, like my grandpa uses oxygen, for example. I could say, el tanque de oxígeno de mi abuelo está vacío. But that's probably a little wordy, so you could probably just say su oxígeno está vacío, because what's understood doesn't have to be explained. Meaning that if two people can see the oxygen tank, there's no reason to say it's a tank. I can just say oxygen. But my point is, un tanque de oxígeno can be used in another context as well. So, part 2. Let me make sure. I'm sure I'll have to change this language. Oh, I didn't. Fantastic. So, we entered the ocean and we began to explore an area with many corals. So, entramos al océano y empezamos a explorar un área con muchos corales. The water was clear and calm. El agua. Now, what do we think here? What do you guys think? Is it going to be ser or a star? Well, for me, it's going to be a star, because we've now entered the water and we've kind of looked, right? Imagine looking through your goggles, and now we're looking at the state of the water. El agua estaba clara y tranquila, which helped us observe marine life better, lo que nos ayudó a observar mejor la vida marina. Now, if you said observar la vida marina mejor, perfectly fine, but I think that a little better phrasing would be observar mejor la vida marina. We saw fish of many colors and shapes. Vimos peces de muchos colores y formas. Some swam fast, algunos nadaban rápido y otros hid among the rocks. Se escondían entre las piedras. So, entramos al océano y empezamos a explorar un área con muchos corales. El agua estaba clara y tranquila, lo que nos ayudó a observar mejor la vida marina. Vimos peces de muchos colores y formas. Algunos nadaban rápido, otros se escondían entre las piedras. Okay. Part 3. Again, let me check the language here. There we go. I figured I would have to. Okay, so we discovered a deeper zone where the coral was bigger and more colorful. So descubrimos una zona más profunda, donde el coral era más grande y colorido. In this sense, we don't need that era más grande y más colorido. We can just say era más grande y colorido. We swam slowly so as not to scare the animals. So nadamos lentamente para no asustar a los animales. One of my friends pointed to a turtle swimming nearby. Uno de mis amigos señaló una tortuga, you could say una tortuga marina, but una tortuga cerca. It was very exciting to see it so close. Fue, because we've seen it, right? It's a completed experience. We saw the turtle. Fue una experiencia. Disculpa. It was very exciting to see it close. Fue muy emocionante verla, because it's a turtle, tan cerca. The current was soft, but we always followed the guide's instructions. So now we're coming back to the identity of the current. La corriente era suave, but we always followed the guide's instructions. Pero siempre seguimos las instrucciones del guía. So, descubrimos una zona más profunda donde el coral era más grande y colorido. Nadamos lentamente para no asustar a los animales. Uno de mis amigos señaló una tortuga cerca. Fue muy emocionante verla tan cerca. La corriente era suave, pero siempre seguimos las instrucciones del guía. So I want to talk about, real quick before we move on to the final part, about asustar a. So, again, I learned from Spanish with Paul that there's a lot of verbs in Spanish that carry a preposition, so to speak, that, like tratar de empezar a, or, there's a lot of them. Tender a. So this is one of those cases where with asustar, most of the time the preposition a is going to follow it. So that is why here, asustar a los animales. Just one of those things. So be aware of prepositions in Spanish, because when you learn how to use them correctly, they, for one, help you because you don't have to conjugate verbs after them, but they also clean up your Spanish. So finally, part 4. Let me change the language here. If there's a way I can create my own shortcut or something like this to do this, please let me know in the comments. But after an hour, we got in the water. Después de una hora, salimos del agua. We were tired but happy. Estábamos cansados pero felices. We all said it was an incredible experience that we want to try again very soon. Todos dijimos que fue una experiencia increíble y que queremos volver a hacerlo muy pronto. We learned a lot about the sea and about how to move under the water. Aprendimos mucho sobre, or you could say de, el mar, be del mar, but de o sobre, mucho sobre el mar y sobre cómo movernos bajo o por debajo del agua, bajo el agua. Ahora, now we understand why scuba diving is such a special place. Now we understand why scuba diving is such a special activity. Ahora entendemos por qué el buceo, as we can see now that the scuba diving has turned into the noun form, el buceo es una actividad tan especial. So, después de una hora salimos del agua. Estábamos cansados pero felices. Todos dijimos que fue una experiencia increíble y que queremos volver a hacerlo muy pronto. Aprendimos mucho sobre el mar y sobre cómo movernos bajo el agua. Ahora entendemos por qué el buceo es una actividad tan especial. So, good job if you made it this far. I want to make one comment here about volver a. Queremos volver a hacerlo muy pronto. So when you see volver a followed by a verb, what it means is to do something again. So there's no need to say otra vez. Like, for example, my wife sent me something, and I read over it real quick, but I knew I needed to read it again. And I told her, I said, no te preocupe, lo vuelvo a leer, o vuelvo a leerlo. Telling her I'll read it again, right? So really, really, really common in Spanish, that volver a, you'll hear it all the time, and it means to do something again. So now let's take a look at the completed text. So, el sábado pasado, mis amigos y yo fuimos a bucear por primera vez. Estábamos un poco nerviosos al principio, pero teníamos un instructor muy paciente que nos explicó todo cuidadosamente. Primero nos pusimos el equipo, la máscara, el traje de neopreno y el tanque de oxígeno. Luego practicamos cómo respirar lentamente bajo el agua. Entramos al océano y comenzamos a explorar un área con muchos corales. El agua estaba clara y tranquila, lo que nos ayudó a observar mejor la vida marina. Vimos peces de muchos colores y formas. Algunos nadaban rápido, otros se escondían entre las piedras. Descubrimos una zona más profunda donde el coral era más grande y colorido. Nadamos lentamente para no asustar a los animales. Uno de mis amigos señaló una tortuga nadando cerca. Fue muy emocionante verla tan cerca. La corriente era suave, pero siempre seguimos las instrucciones del guía. Después de una hora salimos del agua. Estábamos cansados, pero felices. Todos dijimos que fue una experiencia increíble y que queremos volver a hacerlo muy pronto. Aprendimos mucho sobre el mar y sobre cómo movernos bajo el agua. Ahora entendemos por qué el buceo es una actividad tan especial. So, if you stuck around this far, well done. I hope that you've gotten something out of the lesson. I have found, and now that I live in a Spanish-speaking country, and my life really happens in Spanish, I found that that people would say don't translate, but I found that doing translation exercises like these get you away from translation faster. So I've kind of, in these exercises, which I'll post 5 a week from this point on, to combine all of the aspects that allow me to learn Spanish well. So definitely focus on those 18 words, and then come through in the text here, and volver a, and pull out different things like el sábado pasado. You could say last Wednesday, last Thursday, last Sunday, and then you can learn how to use these structures automatically, and you won't have to think anymore. Por primera vez is another one, for the first time. So take what you feel is best, but definitely focus on those 18 words, because you can do a lot with 18 words if you practice using them, right? So, and finally, this is some information if you're interested in taking a Spanish lesson with me and doing more activities like this lesson. Email me at essentialspanish101@gmail.com. And, if you just want to keep watching these videos, check out my YouTube. I post shorts, teaching phrases with Family Guy and other things like it. Check it out at Essential Spanish. Thank you, and have a good rest of your day.